We have returned, ladies and gentlemen. Hatman is not dead, which is good.
I'm not in the Dark Ages either, which is even better.
Yes. And this week, we have a fake engine to make fun of. Plus philosophical talk. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
Welcome to Micah and The Hatman on Politics, live. Yes, this is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. So, Hatman, prior to last week, what could you think would be, or what did you think was probably one of the biggest backfires in politics?
Hillary Clinton running for president?
Okay, that's a pretty good one. And I would, I guess I would agree. But Elizabeth Warren did not quite top Hillary's failed election. Though I don't think that Elizabeth Warren knows where Michigan is either. But the one known only as Pocahontas.
What makes the red Warren red?
Apparently not her DNA. Because holy shit, this woman is white. So for those who are not in the know, Elizabeth Warren took up Donald Trump's challenge when it comes to taking a DNA test. And she's obviously not. No. Let me put it this way. Elizabeth Warren's DNA test showed that she is whiter than the average American. She has less Native American in her than Hatman and I or I probably do. The fraction was 1/1024th.
She's falling back on the one drop rule, unironically.
Pretty much. This woman is so white, Richard Spencer should endorse her.
Oh my god.
This woman is so white, the instant this DNA test came out, Millennial Woes was trying to get her on for an interview for his millennial.
Oh god.
Like this DNA test, Tara McCarthy looked at it and went, "Damn, I'm falling behind."
The female version of Telgamax.
This woman is so white that James Alsop just switched parties. All right, like this, like she just got like the alt-right vote, all 12 of them. So this is the only woman that's as white as I am. I mean, that's what's crazy to me. Because I'm about as pasty as it gets, and I feel like I should have like a bucket of fried chicken here in comparison to Elizabeth Warren. Holy shit!
I'm pretty pasty too.
But this is here's the reason this is so funny, folks. For those who don't know, is this is a woman who has actually constantly touted herself as being of a Native American heritage. Constantly.
And she benefited from it too.
Yes. Harvard has come out and stated they did not hire her because of this claim. Because the claim came out after she had become part of Harvard's staff as here's the irony. This is what Ben Shapiro said. She was a property professor.
Oh, God. And she's definitely white.
No, let's let that sink in for a second. The most socialist person in the Senate, not named Bernie Sanders, was a property professor.
And claimed to be a Native American on top of that.
I am just mind blown. But they consistently touted her as basically a minority hire when she looks as pasty as I do. Rachel Dolezal looked at her and went, "Bitch, you ain't even trying." I mean, Jesus Christ.
So does that mean Elizabeth Warren is transracial? Like, officially she is transracial.
She's apparently trans intelligent because on top of this, she tried to spin it as if it was proof that she was of Native American ancestry. And the media at first fell in line with her and claimed the exact same thing, that this was evidence. And everybody else is going, I'm sorry, what? Like, that's not what this shows here. You know, it literally was, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Like, give me a break here.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And then Lindsey Graham.
Oh, God.
Lindsey Graham even said, I will take a DNA test to prove that I am more Native American than Elizabeth Warren is.
I love Lindsey Graham 2.0. He gives zero fucks. It's glorious. I love it.
Incredible.
This man does not care, and I love him for it.
No, he stopped caring, and he is, and we are all the better for it.
The campaign slogan for oh my God, for his campaign next time around is going to be "fuck it." Like, but part of the reason, and on top of that, the Cherokee Nation came out against her. And she is still campaigning on this shit.
She was causing actual damage, according to the Cherokee Nation. She was causing actual damage to the Native identity. So, I guess now it's cultural appropriation.
Pretty much. But what I find interesting about this, there have been several theories, and this is one I subscribe to, because it does make sense, is one of the problems, and this will transition into our next topic, is one of the big problems on the left that is intersectionality. And people on the left are constantly racing for oppression points. Constantly. That's why you see Hillary Clinton constantly out in the public eye again, complaining that Trump was a sexist, Trump was a racist, was it this, was it that, and I'm just a poor old woman. Don't ask Juanita Broderick about me. You know, like, and Elizabeth Warren is basically doing this because she's pretty low on the totem pole of oppression. At the top seems to be LGBT or black folks, either or. It's kind of interchangeable at this point. But we'll say LGBT, black, Muslim, Latino, women, Jews, Asians, white people, from top to bottom. And all Elizabeth Warren has going for her is women. But when it comes to the upcoming race, the primaries on the Democrat side in 2020, she's going to be up against Kamala Harris, who is both women and black, and then Cory Booker, who is Moronicus in black. He's disabled. He's retarded. So he's got that going for him. It literally is the oppression Olympics on the left. And this is just part of it. Because if Elizabeth Warren goes into those debates with a big ass sign that says "I'm a minority too, guys," then of course it's she's going to be able to play the game on equal footing with someone like a Cory Booker or a Kamala Harris or someone else.
It's a race to the bottom.
It really is. And
it's all the oppression Olympics has ever been. I mean, we saw how it pretty much like ruined any sort of credibility that Occupy Wall Street attempted to get.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because that's what it became. Like that's when the big discussion about the hierarchy of oppression basically came about, or what was it called? The progressive stack. Yeah, and when you think about that. And you think about your politics being defined by that, that's why you see this happen. So, needless to say, Elizabeth Warren has really made herself look a lot worse than she did just a couple of weeks ago. A lot worse. And the media doesn't want to admit it. They're going to continue to toe the line for her. And the only reason that she's continuing to go with this particular narrative is because she knows the media will back her up. But even then, some people in the media are starting to slowly back away from it. There were people on MSNBC making fun of her for what had happened. Because this is, like, on the ground level, to John and Jane Q. Public, this is a giant faux pas. A giant one. It does not make her look good in any way, shape, or form. You know, because even on the left, for these people who idolize, you know, your supposed place in the hierarchy based on whatever identifier that they want to assign on you, like a giant fucking name tag that goes on your forehead. You know, this rat race that they've got going, it has driven people crazy, and it's not about ideas anymore. And in the pursuit of getting as many minority points as possible, you now have this person who, on paper, should be somebody that people could look at and say, this is somebody who should be in the Senate. Then you look at her actions and you're like, this is how did this bint ever get in at Harvard? So, I have nothing left to add there. Hatman, what about you?
I've got nothing except Elizabeth Warren is whiter than sour cream.
Yes. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Political correctness.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, something you and I are...
political correctness.
As do I, and apparently so does 80% of the country.
Sweet. We're in the majority.
Yes! This is that's what I find interesting. Political correctness is so unpopular. It's almost 30%, or it is 30% more unpopular than it was in the first big push in the 90s. That's pretty crazy when you think about it.
That is.
It is only 20% of Americans think political correctness is a good thing. Oddly enough, most of them are serving in the Senate and or live in Portland.
Or San Francisco.
Or San Francisco. So, there's a lot of things, I think, that factor into this. And we'll talk about some of the theories that I heard. The first theory, and Hatman, I think you might find this interesting. The first theory that I think a lot of people thought, or some people have batted around, as to what broke people on political correctness was transgenderism.
Really?
Yeah, this was a theory thrown around by Michael Knowles at the Daily Wire that I found interesting, and a lot of the guys over there had a discussion on it, and I think that there was a good point in the idea that political correctness, when it comes to that particular topic, for better or worse, is asking you to call black white.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're showing me a man in a dress who is as bearded as I am, and saying that's a woman.
Or you're showing me Elizabeth Warren and saying that's a Native American.
Well, yeah, and that's another good example. Sean King being black. Rachel Dolezal being black. And then you're telling me, you're telling me on one hand that there's so many layers to the lies, really. But let's focus on that one first. Let me back up a couple steps. I had like 30 thoughts at once there. When you think about it, that is one thing that is going to break people when it comes to this sort of an idea, is if you are asking them to adopt something that makes zero sense just because it's supposedly nice. It's like, I want you to call this turkey a duck.
Mm-hmm.
No, I call it dinner. You know, it's like trying to sell me on Riley Dennis being a chick. If it was 1980, I would think that Riley Dennis was in a hair metal band. Dead serious with the hair and how big the Adam's apple is. And I think that I can understand if that was part of what broke it for some people. Because, you know, a lot of people are perfectly fine, as South Park would say, we're all for equality and rights and all that gay stuff. You know, that's kind of you know, classical liberalism in a nutshell.
Yeah,
we're all for
much.
rights and equality and all that gay stuff.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that a man is a woman and a woman is a man, and fuck you. You know, that's something that.
Well, it's a little more even complicated than that. Like when you get into the whole, okay, well, gender identity, gender expression is separate from sex. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can sort of understand that. You know, I suppose in the context of, you know, gender dysphoria is a mental illness. So yeah,
but then when you say that, they tell you it's not a mental illness, and all mental illnesses are social constructs.
Oh no, and then they go, but also sex is a social construct too, because you can have a whole host of different chromosomal patterns and forget the fact that those are all genetic anomalies and are not accurate representations of the majority of the populace. So that just means that they're different. So, Micah, congratulations. You and I don't have a mental illness because that's just a different way of the brain existing, and it should not be stigmatized in any way as an anomaly.
I'm cured. Praise Cthulhu.
Yes. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, you know, as you move on from like transgenderism, you know, naturally it goes to what about other demographics? You know, what about obviously the transracial? You know, is that a thing?
Sean King is a black guy.
Yeah, transabled.
No.
Is being transabled a thing? I mean, like that one's actually got more going for it than being transracial, because that's actually like a diagnosis. Like
autism is the next spectrum. Is the next step in human evolution. You can translate alien languages.
I was just pretending to be autistic, guys. I wanted to be cool. No, like it, you know, it's one stepping stone to the next, and then you're like, okay, well, are we going to get as far as like otherkin and shit? Are we really going to get that far and say, yes, if you want to be listed as a stegosaurus on your birth certificate, you have every right to be?
Yeah, it's like here's what's interesting about it is Americans were an interesting breed in a lot of senses. And we all have lines in our life. And there's a lot of commonalities between one American and another. It doesn't matter what race you're from. And when you start telling, you know, when you start telling a young man, that he's not, he is transphobic if he won't sleep with chicks with dicks, there's a line that's crossed there.
Yeah.
And I know I'm kind of being typical Micah at this point, but hear me out here. Think about being told that. It's like, by the way, if you won't sleep with a human being that has a penis, you're transphobic. It's like, but I don't.
But you're born gay or straight or bi or whatever sexuality.
Yeah, and you have no control over such things.
And you have no control.
And they shouldn't judge you unless they should judge you. There's no consistency here.
It's trying to turn original sin into a political belief, basically.
This is like, it's like trying to win a game of Twister with an octopus. Like, it's just not gonna happen. I can't stretch that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you will always have a losing hand.
Yeah.
Like even if you counter the PC arguments like with every last bit of logic and science that you can get, they will flip over the table and say, "Well, you lost."
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, the only benefit is now I can sexually identify as a Blastoise. But
Blastoise Master
Master
Race.
Race, yes. But that's the thing. It's like how do you expect people to buy this? You know, it's literally like trying to sell someone a shit sandwich and saying that it's turkey on rye.
Well, that's the whole reason why this is really central to academics right now, and is moving into like primary education even, because it's basically re-education. That's essentially what you're being forced to learn. It's the sky. You thought the sky was blue for your entire life. Turns out the sky is actually green. Now you can't see that it's green, but I assure you that it is green, and we're going to go through all of this. So where if anyone ever says the sky is blue, your response should be, actually, the sky is green. Like, I know, yeah, I used to think like you. I used to think that the sky was blue, but the sky is really green. You just have to trust me on this. Just what you see, your lived experiences, they're not the same. They're not valid.
And that's another thing that really kills people is whenever you hear them say your truth.
Yeah.
Nah, no.
What's true for you is true. That's a Scientologist thing, which should tell you right now, yeah, this is kind of culty.
Yeah, it really is. But when the instant somebody says your truth, I immediately say fuck you and your truth. There is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is one. It is a static constant of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to fucking hear about this your truth thing.
Thing about truth is it's true whether you believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that was part of the whole Kavanaugh thing, even.
Mm-hmm.
With, like, when people were saying is like, oh, Christine Blasey Ford told her truth. No, she told her testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no corroborating evidence. And people see that. And people like living in a country where you're not going to, you can't be jailed based purely on somebody else's word.
Mm-hmm. There's truth and there's perception. And the two get conflated too often.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big problem, is that perception can be screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
You can quote to me Obi-Wan's speech from Return of the Jedi about a certain point of view all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the live long fucking day, but there are constants. You might have different perspectives on those constants, and we can have a discussion about them, but at the end of the day, the discussion is going to lead us towards understanding what the static element is. And this is part of the problem we have, I think, in general, is that, we talked about generational stuff a couple podcasts ago, and a problem with the current generation and the people who are influencing the most is they are constantly trying to tell people that what parents should be doing is preparing your child for the road. The road is a static thing.
Mm-hmm.
The world is as it is. There are things that work. There are things that do not work. And here's the things that work. Here's the things that don't work. You're going to get taught for 18 years. Or maybe even more for some kids these days. Mm-hmm. For me, it was 18. And instead, parents are always saying, you can change the road. No, you can't. You cannot change the road. The road it is a constant. You can
Mm-hmm.
walk down it and you can get ready for it. And the stronger people and the people that, want to become better than what they are the ones who aren't trying to change the road, are the ones who are trying to learn more about it and to understand it better and how to live while walking down it and how to continuously improve so that the journey isn't as hard as it was the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And then continue to pave and continue to help other people that are coming down the road as well. And that's, I think that's the problem with PC culture, is it ultimately tries to force a fascistic look on the world to people.
Mm-hmm.
that you must follow this specific dogma or you're not a nice person. You are double plus ungood.
Yeah, it's a social religion essentially.
Pretty much. And it is a it is an element of existence that people are scared of. And the funny thing about it is that when you start to, move out on your own and start to do things and start to become more independent and start to take the world as it is, as opposed to how you think it should be in your narrow-minded way of looking at life, you start to realize the importance of liberty, the importance of being able to speak your mind, the importance of being able to figure things out of your own, and the importance of not having to live to somebody else's rigid way of looking at things, especially when it comes to politeness. Because sometimes you got to tell the truth, and in a system that constantly tells you that if you don't adhere to this shifting paradigm constantly of what the society is doing at that moment, then you're a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, your thoughts are ours now.
Pretty much. You must fall within the line. And if you do not follow the line, you go to the camps.
If you don't stay on the line, what will happen?
Camps.
What happens in camps?
We turn on the ovens.
And then
you burn. And we wear the lederhosen and drink the beer and do the one salute that I'm not going to do, or else we get suspended from YouTube.
Micah, you're making this incredibly difficult. I'm just trying to get you to say millions will die.
Oh. No, I'm not doing it. All right, let's move on to the next topic. So
all that for nothing.
So this brings up an interesting topic that you and I kind of talked about yesterday. You originally wanted to basically talk about some people on the left not wanting to talk impeachment when it comes to the upcoming midterms.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't agree with it because I kind of felt like there was a broader topic that really needed to be discussed here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, millions will die! There we go. But one thing that I thought would be an interesting topic is why the left is losing. Culturally speaking, and among other things, why the left is struggling as much as it is. And losing culturally. Obviously, political correctness is a big part of it. But I think the next step of why the left is losing, why I picked Antifa as an image for this, is because they continue to adopt a more radical rhetoric that is not something that is really poised against, actual fascists, but is rather poised against John and Jane Q. Public.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea, and here's the interesting thing, Charlottesville is constantly quoted by the left. Something that happened 2 years ago, if I recall, 2 years ago. No, yeah, closer to 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
1.5 years ago. And, Unite the Racists to Electric Boogaloo had like 12 people show up. The alt-right is dead, for better or worse.
Yeah, the alt-rights, they're nothing. It's like you Proud Boys and whatnot.
Well, that's even the Proud Boys aren't even that far to the right. They're just weird.
But they're trying to conflate them with the alt-right and say Gavin McInnes is like the new Richard Spencer, and even then they're tiny.
Well, that was the narrative this week. Is that Gavin McInnes is far right, but far right in any of the articles that I read was never defined.
No, it's never. Well, that's the thing too. Like
it's like anything to the right of Mao.
That's the thing. You look at Antifa. They're always described as like left wing, never far left. any sort of like right wingers that they're confronting are always far right.
Exactly. And they like the fact that they're carrying anarcho-communist flags is never addressed.
That is central to their beliefs.
Exactly. And we did a whole podcast about it. You read the fucking book.
Yep.
So what I find so interesting about this is that is rhetoric that's being adopted and becoming more popular. You know, Maxine Waters was the first to start encouraging people to go harass people on the right. And then now Cory Booker's doing it. And where's it going to end is the question. And, you know, like let's actually talk about the realities of like the Proud Boys. There are people who were part of the Proud Boys who ended up going alt-right. And there are people that kind of fell in with that rebel media crowd of about 2 years ago that ended up going alt-right. Faith Goldie comes to mind. Which is a nut. She's a nut, so like why people even pay attention to her is beyond me. But the Proud Boys I would not call alt-right. I don't agree with some things that they say and do. I don't think that basically forming another gang is the answer. But whatever. You know, I am a fan. I am not a fan. Another group would be Patriot Prayer out of the Seattle area. Kind of comes across like a gang. A gang that, oddly enough, if I sat down with several of their members and talked politics, they would probably agree with me on a great many things. But I don't like the way that they're carrying out things because I'm not the type of person that believes that you should seek out conflict like that.
Yeah.
Train for war, but do not go to war until it comes to your doorstep. And we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there.
Yeah. Don't go looking for a fight, for God's sake.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Antifa are neats, LARPing as revolutionaries. Sargon did a video saying the exact same thing, and I completely agree with him. These are not serious people. Every time that there's a physical confrontation and they don't have the numbers advantage, or somebody one of their side gets hurt quick, they would scatter like cockroaches under a light bulb. These are not scary people.
No, they're not. I mean, there's articles out there basically talking about how they feel overpowered sometimes because it's a bunch of people that have never been involved in any sort of confrontation and would not be able to stand their ground at all. I remember one quote being like, we need more like strong black dudes to be really intimidating to these guys.
Melissa Click, can we get some muscle over here?
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to apologize for people who are watching. There are internet problems going on right now. Predictably so. I am so sorry about it. We're gonna just try to power through it. It's the same issue that I had last night when I tried to do the game night stream. So I'm gonna shut off all the Wi-Fi around and stuff like that around me right now.
Thanks, Comcast.
Fuck you, Comcast. But anyway, we're gonna try to power through this and see what we can do. Regardless, though, and I'm wondering if it's actually an OBS issue, because OBS updated recently, and I never had problems like this until right now. So, we'll stick around. We'll try to have it normalize. If the mods, if you're watching, please assure the audience of that. So anyway, as we were trying to say, there's a general issue when it comes to regardless, though, what I find interesting about all of this is you would think that folks would understand exactly why they're being rejected forthwith when it comes to these ideas. You would think that somebody would pick up on it, but they're not. Like, there's not a single politician that is saying to themselves, hey, maybe this is why we're not doing so well in the polls. But they continue to double down on it, almost like a warlike discussion. And I just don't understand it. I don't really get it. I don't understand why on earth people think that this is going to get them the midterms. Because the people in the middle, which there's a lot of people in the middle in this country, see this sort of behavior and they don't want anything to do with it.
No, of course not.
Like,
I mean,
I don't know where any of this comes from. I really don't. It's like, yeah, Charlottesville was a horrifying experience. But at the end of the day, it was like maybe 1,000 people when you add together both sides. And one person died. Tragic, yes. But relatively small. And we have not had anything anywhere like that since then.
But that's still the focus. It's she was a martyr. She was martyred by the alt-right.
And in a sense, she was.
And that doesn't give Antifa or the Democratic Party any sort of justification to physically confront anyone right of center.
Yeah, exactly.
That it doesn't. I mean, it's hilarious too, because there was that story about how Nancy Pelosi got swarmed by a gang of Republicans. I think like the head of some chapter of the Republican Party was actually there too. And most people on the right were condemning it, saying, no, this is mob tactics. We don't do what the left does.
Exactly.
And then the left went and said, see, this is what we're up against. This is terrible. This is why we're entirely justified in doing what we're doing. And okay, justified in doing what you're doing. So preventing any sort of legislators from being able to go anywhere in public without being hounded, even do their jobs, even go to work without being hounded, or practice for a damn baseball game, softball game, whatever. Like, really, you're going to excuse all of that because someone got upset and another person died because somebody was a total asshole.
Well, let's even talk about, like, I want to go back and look at the woman who died in Charlottesville. You had a member of a white nationalist group was in the same uniform alongside them for the entire rally. Gets in his car and runs people over.
Mm-hmm.
There's not been anything like that since, and there was barely anything ever like that before.
Nope.
On top of that, there's nothing to link these people or those politics or any sort of fascistic politics to what's going on in our government right now. At all. If anything, we have become considerably less authoritarian over these last 2 years. Obviously, compared to Obama. But we are freer and more prosperous than we have been since the year 2008.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that too, because there were some articles that had popped up over the last couple of weeks, like, we need to abolish the Supreme Court because that's an institution that can remain partisan for, however long the justices live for. We need to abolish the Senate because it doesn't make sense that a large state like California gets only 2 representatives while a smaller state like Wyoming will also get 2 representatives. That doesn't make any sense. We need to abolish the Electoral College because direct democracy needs to be the way to elect a president, even if that means only a few cities are going to be able to do it. You want to abolish all of the institutions that were implemented by the founders to prevent any sort of tyrannical government from existing, from any sort of desperate to take over, so your brand of politics can take over, or so you can somehow prove that Trump is a dictator like you keep saying. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's the final part that I find so interesting is this is all one big temper tantrum. And I think the articles that we saw after the Kavanaugh vote is basically saying burn down the entire system and replace it with something else.
Yeah, if we can't get our way, then burn it all down.
Yeah. this is what it is. At the end of the day, the reason why the left is losing is all of their politics boiled down to temper tantrums.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And mature folks, the folks who go to a job every single day and just work their days and go home to their kids, you know, they don't really care about what your perceptions of, you know, this of Donald Trump or whatever are. They just want basically for politicians to do what they're supposed to do, represent them in the government, and make sure that their liberties are preserved.
Mm-hmm.
So the very idea that this entire political party, or at least the people who are the big, you know, thought leaders, or so they like to consider themselves, that they're basically saying America can't be America anymore. You start looking at why they would say this, and at the end of the day, when you look at the facts, it's because they're losing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a generation of people raised on the idea that everyone is a winner, that cannot handle the fact that they can't win. And so instead of trying to change themselves, and instead of any sort of introspection at all about the reasons why they're losing, it's, well, the game is rigged, so we just need to change the game. We'll just play a different one. We'll make new rules.
Yeah. No, we don't agree with that. It's not happening. We have power. You're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
We had to deal with it when Obama was president. Yeah, this is how this works.
Yeah. We dealt with it. We got mad. We did not say overthrow the government.
We voted you out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's continue on to the Q&A section because we've reached that time of the day. So, what do we have? Oh, we have something via Patreon. So, Talon Silverbane wants to know. For the political Q&A, I saw an episode of History Buff about the movie The Death of Stalin, and I mentioned many horrors committed by the Communist Party, including a man who was considered Stalin's personal executioner, as well as Stalin having planned his own camps for exterminating Jews. And my question is, why is this less common knowledge than the Nazi camps? Why is it that we try to paint Stalin as the lesser evil when it seems he was equally as evil as Hitler? Because it seems like most history books stop after World War II.
Answer is twofold. One, yeah, that's where the history books stop. And two, because America wasn't involved in the politics of the Soviet Union at that time. So there's, as far as like things that you're going to learn in school, it's basically whatever America was doing, or like the major world events. Because it basically goes from World War II into Cold War, Korea, Vietnam. It's basically wars. You don't learn about the Iron Curtain, for example, until the fall of the Berlin Wall, really. And even then, it's just, okay, this is what happened. The world was separated into East and West, and then the Berlin Wall fell in 89 or 91, I don't remember exactly. And then that's it. You don't get that. It's basically what America was doing at the time. And yeah, no, I absolutely agree. You do need to have a better grasp on what was going on across the world, especially with a world power like the USSR. Like, yeah, you kind of need to know what was going on there. But at the same time, it's a convenient thing to leave out. And because Stalin was an ally, well, I guess we can't talk that bad about a guy who is arguably worse than Adolf Hitler.
I'm sorry for my quiet there. I was looking up a statistic of we had some joker in the chat saying that communism was Jewish or something along those lines. It's like,
no,
dude, No.
No, no, please. I get it. Yes, Frankfurt School is Marxist, but that does not make communism a Jewish conspiracy. That was in Mein Kampf too. Hitler tried to say that communists were of Jewish mind.
Statistically speaking, there were not very many people who were Jewish that were a part of that group, and even then, it was more or less just people who were, you know, unhappy with the current system. It wasn't necessarily an adherence. There's nothing in Jewish belief that would make you think that they want some giant government of communism. I'm sorry, no.
Not to say, if communism was a Jewish plot or something, Israel would be a communist state.
Yeah. So, Brain, if you would mind, show him the door. Let's see here. Not to mention, Karl Marx hated Jews. Like, it doesn't surprise me. Okay. Thoughts on YouTube shadow banning Sargon's videos? Well, that's sort of just a thing in general. And they've been doing it for a while, and that's, you know, and there's a way to find out whether or not you've actually been shadow banned, and like my main channel has been. That's why my subscriber count was going up and up and up and up, and then just stopped. And it's been incredibly difficult to gain any new subscribers at all. But yeah, it's typical. I fucking hate it. All right, is it safe to say that the tide is finally turning on the left in the SJWs for all the bullshit they've done? I would say so. I think people just got sick of it. Oh, wait, we need to answer Twitter stuff.
Do we want to hit the Starship Troopers thing now, or do we want to save it for entertainment?
Let's save it for entertainment. I think that would be a good one for that. Let's see here, because there's a couple different people who have asked about this. Oh, here's a good one from Nair of Townsville says, do you think that attacks on General Lee will lose Democrats even more support in the South? Because lots of Southerners, myself included, see Lee as a great general and a patriot. At least I think they do. Yeah, it's a bad plan.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that thing about it stems from Trump trying to say that Robert E. Lee was a great general. Quote got taken out of context and acting like, oh my God, Trump is praising General Lee, and all of a sudden everyone says, no, all historians agree that he was not a great general. No, that's actually patently false.
Yeah,
there's a general consensus that no, Lee, although he did make tactical errors, was for the most part a great general, and that's why the North was kind of scrambling to find someone who could take him on, because despite being outgunned, outmatched, everything, Lee was still winning.
Yeah.
No. The Trump thing was actually praising Grant.
Yes, exactly.
Funny. But no, going after Robert E. Lee is not a very good thing, especially after the left used his comments about Confederate statues in their argument about why there shouldn't be any Confederate statues. You don't get to pick and choose. Come on.
Yeah.
You don't get to pick and choose.
Okay, we've still got 8 minutes. Thoughts on the waves of migrants swarming the U.S.-Mexico border and the left's defense of it? I am not surprised by their defense of it, because they want open borders for whatever reason. I've never understood why.
Globalism?
Yeah, there's not a lot of logic to it, because supposedly rules are racist or something.
I guess. I don't know.
There's no good argument there. There just really isn't. Did we talk about Project Veritas kicking butt this week? I haven't really seen much of what they've done. What's the news there?
They basically caught Claire McCaskill, who is more or less going to lose her re-election bid for Missouri Senate, saying that she was for stronger gun control laws when she's on record as not wanting anything like that. She supports a semi-auto rifle ban, all that nonsense basically. And she went full damage control afterwards, saying that she was going to sue Project Veritas.
Oh yeah,
and even sent out like a fundraising email shortly afterwards saying, "Oh, they're going all in to try and take my seat."
Well, the big problem with that one is that you've got Joshua Hawley running against her, and Hawley is also not very pro-gun either. So it's really hard for that to really be a win, in my opinion. Again, Austin Peterson should be the one running for that seat, not Hawley. I think the Republicans in Missouri made a big mistake with that. Yeah. But regardless, though, the simple thought is, I would hope that it wouldn't have an impact, but I'm not going to hold my breath on the whole McCaskill thing.
I think she's pretty much done for at this point. She was already like fairly unpopular and considered the most vulnerable Democrat up for re-election. I think it's gonna bite her. Missouri is a strange place.
Mm-hmm. I would know. I live right next to it. All right. Most of our Twitter questions are actually entertainment oriented. So, there is another one on here that I would like to answer on this one though. So Elric of Melopony asked, I started looking into BitChute recently and have to wonder how anyone could possibly view it as a good YouTube alternative. You dox yourself to the entire internet every time you watch a video. The peer-to-peer nature means it's unusable for anyone with data caps, and you're a content creator, then you need to store all your videos on your main PC to ensure they're always available for download. Maybe I'm just not enough of a elite hacker, but I don't think making and viewing stupid internet videos should require a paid VPN and a personal server farm. Are people so desperate to get away from YouTube they resort to literal black market and all it entails? Some people are, and that's why I ended up not going with it. It's like I have no desire to keep all that shit on my computer constantly. It's like, no, that's gigabytes upon gigabytes of data. And then I'm with Comcast. I have a data cap. I can't fucking, have that going on. No. It really is like, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get around like the massive amounts of server space that YouTube has to have to even exist at this point. It's kind of their way around it, and it's not gonna work in the long run. Did we hear about the Minnesota representative candidates who were assaulted by Antifa? Yeah. And it was horrifying. But then again, this goes into what we were just talking about as the last topic of the day. There is this sort of this weird idea on the left that it's just okay to be violent towards people who disagree with you or who don't hold your politics. So, all right. Not a lot of questions today, it seems, though. So I'm going to close out with this. So, Hatman, did you know that I was, I had a far alt-right guy try to ask me for a debate.
Again?
Yeah. On the subject of ethno-nationalism. And I wanted to talk about why I turned him down. Just so it's on the record for everyone else. I turned him down because the alt-right does not debate honestly. They do not. Every single conversation I have ever seen with somebody on the alt-right, with somebody who, like me, is a civic nationalist, because that's what he wanted to debate me on, was civic nationalism versus ethnic nationalism. And they never define their terms properly, and the definitions constantly change throughout the discussion. I have no desire. And the way I described it is, it's like trying to play darts with somebody in the bar, but the guy that you're competing against, they're basically pulling the dartboard off the wall and throwing it to a different wall. every single time you try to throw, and it's infuriating. And then they claim victory. It's like, no, I don't want to play that fucking game. It was a mistake for Sargon to do it. It's a mistake for anyone else to do it. But here's the other thing. I have no desire to debate the political version of flat Earth. No desire. Every single nation out there that has been ethno-nationalist in nature, and actually ethno-nationalist, not, a country back in 1600 which was still, the way that we look at, like, how on earth would Ireland in 1600 be ethno-nationalist? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they wouldn't even know what the fucking term meant. They just want to know if they could sell you potatoes.
Or Iceland today. I don't know. The argument that Iceland is an ethno-nationalist state.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, if you're the terms are never well defined, but beyond that, every single actual ethno-nationalist state, the ones that define citizenship by basically genetics, failed or will fail in the future. South Africa will probably end up turning around because A, the Zulu nation said, fuck what you're doing, and B, they would end up starving themselves out. But let's not make a mistake on what's going on in South Africa. It's the attempted formation of an ethno-state. It never works. It's why I'm not interested in the debate. I'm just not interested in even discussing it. It is like discussing flat Earth theory. Just the very idea that like people are even entertaining it is beyond me. But there's some goofy people on the internet that think that Hitler was an okay guy. It's like, you know what? You can go in your corner and be weird. I have no desire to discuss anything with you. All right. But I just wanted to address that. So if you guys have questions for the overflow, please go ahead and put them in the chat and tag Brainbox and us as well so we can answer those for you later in the week. Mm-hmm. Hatman, do you have any final words before we take off?
Elizabeth Warren is still white.
Indeed. Stick around, guys. We're still going to do the entertainment podcast despite all this insanity when it comes to YouTube screwing with these streams, but it is what it is. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
And we'll see you guys very soon. Deus Vult.
Deus Vult.